Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. True story regarding the beautiful Emerald Isle and petty revenge on an overbearing newly promoted boss. This beautiful country of ours has a fairly low population density, generally for reasons dating back to the infamous famine. Watch Black 47 for reference. It also, however, has layer upon layer of civil servants and bureaucracy. We have a beautiful system of government where we have two houses and a representative for every 30,000 people as a fact of law. Underneath that, we have a local government system with local authorities in each county and city, each with their own elected councilors and administration. Planning, fire safety roads, refuse collection, and some other things are administered by these local councils, which leads to the public service being the largest employers in the country. All in an island with a southern republic that has an area of 26,000 square miles with, at the time, about 31 or 32 local authorities and a population of 5.5 million plus or minus. It's totally over the top, but that's a discussion for another day. Anyhow, while working for one such local authority as a senior executive engineer, see, a fire officer, my good friend, an extremely intelligent civil engineer, had the misfortune of being gifted with a new boss, a spanking, clean, brand new in box county engineer in his first role in that position, full of the proverbial piss and vinegar. Now, this particular county was landlocked by other counties and is a particularly odd shape with a brand new motorway going through it. There are many parts of the county that the only way to get to by road is through other counties. This is important. Most staff use their own cars, and once a month you filled out your mileage sheets, sent it to your direct line manager for sign, off who sent it up the chain and claimed it back at a rate of so much per mile. It was often a nice addition to the paycheck and more than covered the cost of maintaining and running the vehicle. If you crossed your LA's boundary, you had to fill out another sheet explaining why and get it signed off by your line manager. Under their previous boss, they had devised a system where no one had to bother with the mileage sheets necessarily on a monthly basis, and could let it slide for a few months and then submit them all together and get a nice bonus in one lump, nice if you had a special occasion or a holiday coming up. An easy savings plan, if you will. No one bothered with the second sheet because you crossed the boundary so many times a week that they became irrelevant. Cue new boss's arrival, who insisted on doing everything by the book. Didn't like the way that things worked previously and was going to sort it all out, straighten out everything and kick everyone into line. He called everyone into a meeting, explained what he was doing in his best authoritative manner, and insisted on monthly submittal of all expenses and mileage sheets and everything listed down to the finest detail, including reasons for your trips, etc. And they had to be explained fully and in detail, otherwise the mileage sheets would be sent back unsigned. My friend and the rest of the staff went away from the meeting wondering how they were going to deal with this new way of working. After a few days stewing, my friend came up with a solution to the issue and then called his workmates. They had a little discussion amongst themselves about how to deal with things and came up with a plan for petty revenge. Everyone under the direction of the new boss found that the extreme ends of the county is where they were needed to work that month. The staff then slightly redesigned all of their trips so that they crossed county boundaries multiple times a day, 6 days a week. At the end of month 1, this plan culminated with the submission of thousands of permission confirmation sheets to cross the county boundary to be signed by the new C after his first month. It took him over 4 weeks to get through that batch, and on week 4, after receiving the second month's batch, all the senior staff were called into a meeting, the agenda of which was kept very hush-hush. The only thing that ever came out of that meeting was a quiet word from the senior staff that everything was going back to the way it used to work. A perfect teaching moment and petty revenge combined. So I was a graduate assistant for the dean at my university last year. The previous admin assistant, AAE, was responsible for handling the annual Dean's List letter mail merge and printing process, a huge, tedious task involving hundreds of letters. But then the quit her job after 30 years to pursue her own dream. The school hired a brand new AA to replace her. The new AA had absolutely no idea what she was doing. I'm talking didn't even know how to use Google Drive and writing emails. But I tried to be patient and help her learn. I basically helped her with literally every single thing in the office that I had to learn myself. I knew the dean's list letter process was going to be really tough for her, so before I graduated, I told both the dean and the new AAA that I would help her through it one more time, even though it wasn't my responsibility. Fast forward to when it was time to do the letters. The new AKA emailed me, and I told her I'll come in and walk her through everything. But then she texted me and said she already had someone else print all the letters and she would fold them in a way that doesn't need labels to, put it in the envelope with clear windows. I was like, good for her. At least she figured it out. Then one day later, she texted me and said she doesn't like how this works. She doesn't know how to fold them correctly, and she would prefer the labels instead, and asked me to come help her. I was like, okay, I'll help with that. So I drove to the school, and the letters are all out of order on the wrong paper. I gently point this out, and she totally freaked out on me, saying I should have told her about the special paper earlier, even though I offered to help from the beginning. Like, how am I supposed to know she had someone else helped her? She didn't let me know until she printed all the letters out. And she was like, when I told you I printed all the letters out, you should have asked me about the paper. Like, what? What? I assumed if she managed to have someone else to print it for her, that person should know, or at least text me, hey, I have someone help me print out the letters. Are there anything I need to know? But no. She got done without me knowing and got mad at me for not telling her. Am I supposed to read her mind or something? Anyway, I end up having to print the labels twice because she didn't like the first one. And I help her organize everything to email the letters to the advisors. I even write out detailed instructions. The whole time I'm thinking, I really should be home studying for my MCAT. When I say I have to go after the labels printing, she got upset, saying I'd promised to help her stick the labels on the envelope. I told her I have to go home and study, and that's a basic task she can definitely do herself. It is time-consuming, but she can do it herself. But she just keeps going on about how I broke my promise and how I told her I would help, but then I didn't help. I was like, what? Honestly, if she asked nicely, I would have some empathy and spend at least 30 minutes to help her. But she literally demanded me to do it when it is her job. We argued and I left because I was tired of her BS. She kept cutting me off when I was trying to point out the whole thing is a mess right now, and printing out the labels is the last thing I could have done for her. She should have just asked another lady who printed the letters to help her, but she asked me who is not even working there anymore. It is not even my responsibility. I don't get paid for it, and I came all the way there to help her, wasting my time. And all I received was, hey, you told me you would help, but you don't help. I'm so frustrated. I went way above and beyond to help her, and instead of being grateful, she accuses me of not keeping my words. If she had just waited for me in the first place, none of this would have been an issue. We would have finished the way faster and more efficiently. I went out of my way to help with something I'm not even responsible for, and this is what I get. I just don't understand the ingratitude. Before I start this story, I have to add a bit of backstory. I am a 19-year-old male, and when I was younger, around 14, I used to do Taekwondo classes. I was a black belt at the time, and I really enjoyed it. We had a few incidents where parents would take their aggressive kids into classes for a free trial, but they were mostly dealt with by the instructor. But nothing makes my blood boil like this incident. I did Taekwondo on every Tuesday and Thursday for around an hour. While on Thursdays, I was in an age requirement class which was 13, so most kids had common sense and it was tougher than Tuesdays, which had no age requirement, and I was helping the instructor teach, as I had done training for it, which helped me with getting a job because I was planning on working in a place like that. So one Tuesday afternoon, 10 minutes after the class had started, AEM runs up the stairs making a ruckus with her whining EK, who looked around 7. The instructor lets me know that I'll take over for a while as he goes and assists the EM and EK. While I'm showing the class, who were mostly young kids around 7-9, how to do a certain punch, the EK bursts through the door and runs straight over to the punching bag. He proceeds to push me over as I was crouching and start punching the bag. I stand up immediately and say to the EK in a semi-unhappy tone, "Hey, you can't be doing that to others." He immediately stopped punching the bag and says, "I kid you not. Piss off, you C word." I stare in shock at the kid who was younger than most people in the room that was using language that I wouldn't even use on my worst day. The EK then skips away like nothing happened. While still in shock, I continued the class as I would tell the instructor after he returned about the incident. I looked over to the EK who was saying something to his EM, which I assume was about me, while she was purchasing the uniform. She stops and looks over to me in pure disgust, then says something to the instructor who had a confused look. That's when another kid grabbed my arm and asked for my help with a punch. I gladly go over and help him to get out of that situation. About 10 minutes later, the EK comes out of the toilets wearing a uniform with a wet stain on it already, which we can all agree on what it was. And he proceeds to start talking to the other kids about his Minecraft world. Luckily, the instructor overheard this and went over to tell the EK to listen or sit out, in which he replies, finds the instructor informs me that he will take over again, and I should put the punching bags back. I do as he says and then go grab a drink and sit down while waiting for him to call for me in a demonstration, in which he does for a certain hair-grab escape. After the demonstration, the class partners up and does it with each other, in which the EK comes up to me with the biggest grin on his face and asks if he can be my partner. I reluctantly agree as he pulls my arm while running into a spot, and he says he wants to grab my hair first. I knew exactly what he was going to do, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He then grabs my hair with his full force, laughs, and pulls me in, which I respond by kicking the back of his leg so he would fall over onto a mat. When he fell, he decided not to let go of my hair, but to pull me down with him, in which he had pulled some of my hair out. After that, I yelled at him, saying, "Why in the hell would you do that?" When his EM looks over and says to me, "You little crap, get the F off my son, you pedo," I start to stand up while holding my head, and the EK starts yelling, "He can't feel his leg." The EM comes and whacks me straight in the face with her handbag as the instructor comes up and yells at us to get out, in which I grab my bag and walk out the door with a giant bruise on my face as I wait for the bus. A car pulls up to me, and it's none other than the EM and EK themselves. The EM says to me, "You will be hearing from us very soon. My son is permanently disabled and you will pay for all of the bills." She then grabs a full water bottle and throws it at me, then speeds off while her EK is grinning at me. Fast forward a couple days later, and I receive an email from my Taekwondo class saying I'm banned from the place for badly injuring a child, and that I would not receive a refund for the rest of the year's classes. I'm writing this story because I was recently unbanned from the place as the company is running short on members and is going to shut down if they can't keep up. I hope you enjoyed my first story. Today was hot by UK standards, and my daughter adores the park. Only perk of the heat emo is she gets to play out more. I'll start by saying she's 3 years old and is autistic. She can't talk or follow instructions, but I love encouraging her to do things outside, and she loves swing. School's back, so parks aren't too busy during the day. Perfect. She knew we were going, and she ran from the entrance to the swings, but it was surprisingly a bit busy. Swings are occupied, so I explained to her that other kids are on the swings. She needs to wait. She's not very patient at all and doesn't understand most things. She just knows swings are awesome. There's only 2 swings, but nobody else waiting, so we wait. Quiz several minutes, and she's getting very frustrated now and begins to cry. But that's okay. The second swing frees up. Hooray. Okay, let's go swing right. The mom that's pushing her kid on swing 1, let's call her EM1, snatches at the swing and glares at my daughter, then at me before passing it over to someone who arrived much later than me. Let's call her EM2. Now, I know swings are public, but this threw me a bit. Keys are sacred in Britain is... Either way, I explained to my alog she has to wait again. By now, she's in tears all over. It's sad, but she doesn't understand and ultimately has to learn to be patient, so we wait. EM1A and EM2 then stop swinging to slowly feed their children their lunch while they are sat in a swing. They keep looking at my daughter, gossiping and giggling. I'm not usually paranoid, but the amount they turned around to look at us both made me conscious we were a talking point. I tried to distract my girl dozens of ways, but her autism is very intense and she wouldn't take any interest. She knows she isn't leaving without a swing or two. I don't pretend it's a condition that means she has any right over other children in a public space. I should clarify. Hence, waiting and teaching. However, it is very visible, and would have been apparent to anyone that she was autistic, not just bratty and spoiled. She twitches, stims, speaks only in hums, clicks, and shrieks, and absolutely can't sit still. I love that for her. So I try and have the patience for both of us and help her redirect. So it hurts to feel like these EMZ were testing a child who just wanted to play. I've never seen anyone feed a child that's slow, let alone feed two children on swing. Am I missing a hack? By the time their toddlers finish their entire lunches, don't even swing. Thank God, poor bellies. They move on. EM2 sneers at me as I tell my girl she can play now, only to say, "Oh, were you waiting, Pity?" They then laugh and walk off. It was bizarre. Sadly, my daughter was too worked up at that point to enjoy the park, but we had a lovely picnic after I settled her. I know it's not the most entitled or shocking thing happening by far, but it was just exhausting to be around people like that, and I needed to just let off some steam. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I've made some posts here about my friends, so some of you might know what I'm talking about. I really need advice of what to do and if I should cut off my entitled friend. I feel so stuck on what to do. I met my friend in college back in 2019. When I met her, we became friends instantly. But with that, I learned about her horrible childhood trauma. Her parents came to the U.S. illegally, and they are still here without status, and how her uncle repeeped her until she is the age of 17. As her friend, my heart was so broken for her, and I knew life isn't easy on her. Both her and I changed a lot since college, as one does. I met my fiancée, and she has a boyfriend. Her and the boyfriend are a match made in hell. The stuff she tells me makes me really not like this guy. She would tell me how they always argue. She claimed he cheated numerous of times, how he is forcing her not to take birth control and they have unsafe intimacy. When they argue, he always screams at her to shut the F up. The guy seems like a complete loser. Even with all their issues, she always looks past it or just forgives him. There are many times that I would plead for her to break up with him, and it just never happened. Then she would say something like, I'm just learning from this all. She has also spent $2,500 on his birthday and Christmas gifts. She always just buys him stuff. Whenever we're out, she ends up buying him expensive clothes or food. I do buy clothes for my fiancé if I find something affordable that I know he'll like. But most of this girl's paycheck goes to buying her boyfriend stuff. She is in constant financial hardships because of it. She even sends DoorDash over to his job every time it comes time for lunch. The other night we went out to dinner and she decided to rush off when the bill came to call her boyfriend. I told her to wait and ask the lawyer for 2 separate checks. She told me she will zell it to me after her call, and when she came back, she so happened to lose Wi-Fi service. She told me she'll send me the money when she gets home. It's been days and I still didn't get my money. With all of the horrible stuff she has told me about her boyfriend. She asked me if he can come to my wedding. I'm only having 50, 60 people. They're going to be very cute and intimate. Plus the times I've tried to meet him, it never happened. My friend would always say she wants to double date just for her to back out when I try to make it happen. The one time I almost met him, she was dropping off food for him. She insisted on parking a block away from his house and keeping me in the car. I told her it seems weird to park a block away from the house, and she decided to move the car closer. But she made me stay in the car, and it was very awkward to say the least. So I don't know how I can invite someone to my wedding that I'm not allowed to meet. I also feel like she's so self-absorbed. I was going through a rough patch. My fiancé and I had to do long distance for a bit due to having to apply for a con-fiancé visa. It was really hard on me not being with him, and I went to such a dark place. Luckily, I'm doing better now, and we got approved. So my fiancé comes back in late August. I tried telling my friend how hard it's been on me, but somehow the conversation always goes back to her and her life. Since I stated my fiancé is Korean, I love him so very much, and everything about his culture is so beautiful. I have been to South Korea a few times, and I'm going back in August. My friend knows how much I love his family and the culture. So the other night my friend was ranting of how her cousin is dating a Korean-American guy, and that her aunt set her cousin up to date him despite my friend. I asked her why and how that would spite her, and she said my aunt knows how much I love K-dramas and K-pop, so she definitely used that to get my cousin to date a Korean. I told her that Koreans aren't accessories to have, and really I question the legitimacy of this. She then went on by saying how much she loves her boyfriend and how she prefers having a black man over a Korean man. I don't know what else to do. I feel like my friend is just going down a dark hole. I tried suggesting therapy to her, and she told me it's white people shit, so she wants no part in it. I feel so frustrated and upset with myself that I can't help her. But I don't know what else to do. I get so disgusted whenever she mentions the boyfriend and the relationship. Even if they are doing well, she reminds me constantly how well they are doing. I can't be happy for her because of how horrible this man is. I don't know what else to do to help her, and I just feel myself growing apart from her. I feel horrible saying it, but I find her unbearable now. I miss the friend I had back in 2019, and I don't know how else to get her back. I've been emotionally distant from my parents since as long as I can remember, the earliest memory being from 4th grade when we moved to a different city and I barely bothered to tell them about anything that happened. And even if I did, it was super vague. All I talked to them about was studying and the occasional jokes or casual talk when I felt up to it. They've always immensely pressured me about getting the best grades and beating everyone and telling me I'm a star child and that I'm somehow super smart and crap. More on that later. School was a breeze up till college levels. We go to uni after that. I got really good grades with minimal studying, busted my butt off, and got great grades in O levels too. The entire time I was fixated on getting it and whining like a witch when I lost a couple marks. I was like those nerdy kids with nothing in their life apart from studying and video games. This perfectionism got into other aspects of my life too later on. The entire time, the situation at my house wasn't exactly stable and being super emotional as a child. It didn't work out very well. My dad had severe anger issues, screaming and punching, throwing open doors and flipping out for literally anything. He's gotten way better now. He hasn't had an episode like that in over a year. I really appreciate him for that, which left me shook because obviously going through that as a kid took its toll. That combined with the fact that we were doing good financially, but Dad couldn't manage his money at all meant that I'd go to Mom for lunch money. She'd tell me to go to Dad, sometimes when he was out of money mid-month. That'd result in another fit of rage, so anything related to money or anything that could piss my parents off, I'd stay clear of. I'd shut myself in my room, turned off any devices, and stopped doing anything that I thought would piss him off and pray that he wouldn't come into my room. This led to me dreading weekends because it'd mean another fight between my parents or Dad going berserk. I grew even more distant, barely talked unless necessary. I did sometimes because they are my parents after all. I still love them and need some emotional connection despite everything, and that's how it is till today. I avoided anything and everything that could cause that. Mom also made us adhere to severe screen time limits, an hour a day only on weekends, to the point where I used to wake up at 3 a.m. to hide and play games, and pretend to be asleep when I heard her room's door opening. She took my tablet and later my phone away more times than I can count, despite doing everything she asked for and getting the best grade. I got my devices so late that I started Clash of Clans 5 years after the hype and never got into Fortnite or anything, because I had no console or PC to play with anyone. Not to say I want to play Fortnite, but it was ostracizing to say the least. This makes me have anxiety and panic attacks as soon as I hear someone coming towards my room. I immediately swipe to the home screen or Windows my laptop and sit there listening. It doesn't matter who it is at this point. It's literally a physiological response. I also prefer staying alone and lock my room door a lot now. Dad has overcome his anger about 90s of the way, and I can see him trying to make things work on a daily basis. When it comes to my relationship with him, maybe I'm the H, because he tries and I keep pushing away at the slightest annoyance. His financial skills are still in the drain, but I don't care at this point. How much can you expect someone to change? The anger going away alone makes up for it. He still has horrible time management, though, which also led to a lot of arguments between my parents, but it's the least of my concerns. For this next part, let this be known that I'm an 18-year guy in a levels college. Now, my mom, on the other hand, I don't even know where to begin. She's always been after me for grades, but the difference between her and my dad is that while both go on about the being the best and beating everyone in the amount of competition, Dad will accept any grade I get as long as I try. Mom somehow knows that I can get the best, and if I don't, I didn't try hard enough. I mean, of course, if I spend every waking moment studying, I'll get all is but common. Let me live a little and have a life. She has to know where I'm going and when I'll be back, and if I change plans or go somewhere without telling her, she gets pissed off and angry that I didn't ask for her permission. She doesn't give me her car for anything except when it's for her own convenience because, well, maybe she thinks I'll crash or something, I don't know. Yes, I love speed, but I'm not an idiot. I also fear my parents enough to not do anything stupid and take immensely calculative risks. This coming from an 18-year-old sounds dumb. Yes, we're supposed to be doing stupid things, but no. Not me. I've always been the mature and responsible one, as everyone puts it. God, I hate myself some for this. So yeah, I'm weird. I'm now deliberately trying stupid things to actually live life, but all that childhood conditioning doesn't help much. Now back to my mom, she expects me to ask and tell her about everything. Screw the car. I can't even walk over to my friend's house 15 miles away without her going like, "How dare you go anywhere without telling me? You didn't even bother asking me for permission." I'm having my exams these days, and she had me sit down the other day to talk about something, which turned out that she didn't like that I left the house for my exam without telling her goodbye or asking for her blessing. She's like a control freak. Then a week ago, I had my exam in 3 hours, and she asked me to go run over to the store and get her some tea bags or some crap and drop off some clothes at the dry cleaner. I was revising for an exam I had in 3 hours, and she didn't care. When I told her I'll get it done after the exam and that I'm revising right now, she had the audacity to say, "Oh, please, you can at least do this for your mother. She can drive to the store herself." She expected me to ditch studying, and when I get anything lower than an A, she'd make my life hell and get her tea bag. She did this twice, on 2 separate exam days after me clearly telling her why I can't. Then my parents want me back home by 11. I couldn't even go to the gym till January of this year. They think I'll hop on Tren or something. They feel like everyone is out to get me at night and that they want me home early because they can't sleep knowing something could happen to me. I have to fight so much to stay over at a friend's house late. Who cares if it's 11 p.m.? I'm at his house. You can ask his mom and he'll drop me home because they never give me their car. He's much more socially developed and pretty street smart, so they trust him more than me, which pisses me off because they think I can't do anything without him. Which is kind of my fault for bringing him along with me to places as a way to get around them, not agreeing to me doing things alone. But now they want him to be with me anywhere they think is dangerous, especially when it involves their car, my mom more so than my dad. Reading that made me feel like a child, but that's just it. They treat me like one. They're insanely overprotective and feel like they know what's best for me the whole time. They keep reminding me about things I already know I'm supposed to do to the point where I stop doing them to get back at them, like clearing the cat litter. Yes, it's childish, but how much am I supposed to put up with this? My mom also micromanages a lot to the point I have to tell her to shut up, not literally else my dad will rip me apart, or to tell her to leave. Speaking of feeling like a child, on multiple occasions my parents have started arguing like children, and I'm the one who has to solve the problem. We were going to my cousin's wedding the other day and had just gotten into the car in the parking lot when she started throwing a fit. That her hair is messed up and she needs her hairbrush, which she forgot in the hotel room. I told her it looks fine and to forget it quoting the same thing both of them have told me and my brother ever since we were kids: no one's judging you. She told my dad to stop the car and she isn't going. They then argued for 30 seconds, after which I told them to continue acting like children, threw open the car door, ran to the hotel room, got the brush, came back, and then we set off. And this is just one instance. I've done this on 2 other occasions already. Last week my mom's car was out of fuel and I had an exam the next day, so I asked her for money. She told me she doesn't have any and to ask Dad. I did what she told me to. Dad's bank account was nearly empty, so I told him to forget it and that I'll pay and he can pay me back next month. He gave me the money anyway, and that was that. An hour later, Mom called me to her room and scolded me for asking Dad for money when I somehow knew that he had close to none and that I should have paid for the fuel myself without asking them. Am I brain dead because what the F? You tell me to do something, then argue with me for doing what you told me to. Then when I reasoned with her, she started saying, you're always right. I'm the wrong one every time, so I just left with a sigh after telling her that she was being illogical. Now, after all this, I'm tired of my parents and have been planning to move out ASAP because I'm losing my mind here. I have no independence at all. No matter what I do, and they need control of every aspect of my life. I'm immensely self-motivated, need autonomy, and can't do anything with people micromanaging me or telling me what to do. I wonder where I got that from. It also doesn't help that in my country you can't work till you're 18 and the economy is so screwed that minimum wage gets you absolutely nothing. Minors can't work. You can't work part-time either. And the requirements for jobs are absurd. Now, the part where I'm confused about. Yesterday morning, my mom and dad had a fight. Nothing new. I had just woken up and went to shower. By the time I got out, they were seemingly done. I was with my friend at the mechanics when my dad texted me to come back home early and that we had to talk. Apart from stressing me out, this meant one of two things. He was pissed off about something and I was screwed. Or two. Basically nothing off importance and that he's doing this for no apparent reason. Turned out it was three. Family reconciliation. My parents talked it out in the morning successfully and decided that we weren't doing anything as a family now and we don't communicate anymore, etc., etc. The end result was to decide on regular communication about things we don't like about each other, resolving issues and having dinner together every day. This was a really good step in a positive direction, but here's the issues. When I tried the same, Mom didn't care, and Dad said Mom doesn't listen to her as much, shuts him out basically. So I dropped the idea, decided nothing I do is worth it, and cemented my idea to leave home. So when I say it, you guys don't care, but now that you fought and had an epiphany, we're all suddenly a happy family again? This can't fix everything I've been through, and I cannot physically, mentally, or emotionally do certain things with you guys anymore, no matter what we do. I have trust issues. I'm an emotional wreck. I have what I think is anxiety or something. I withdraw from people, and above all that, this doesn't fix things. It's a fix for sure, but what's done is done. I can't forgive that. Yes, maybe I'm the H here again, shutting down the idea of reconciliation, but I've had enough. I cannot and will not open up again. I cannot deal with that stuff again. It's screwed me up enough. A part of me wants to go through with it and get that connection back that I've been longing for, but anything I do now will be turned against me as it always has, and I'm not ready for more hurt. I'm confused because up until a day ago I was planning to leave, but now I can stay and have a semblance of a sort of normal family without the crappy stuff. When people say that they willingly spend time with their parents, I cannot even fathom that. Again, I get it. People aren't perfect. No family is. I know that, but when do you draw the line where you can't go back or when enough is enough? I've told you guys about most of the issues, and while I'm no saint, I need some help regarding what to do now. Are my parents the ones to blame for me doing stuff like this? Or am I the one who's putting all of this on them? Should I go through with this reconciliation thing or stick to my plan of getting out? Maybe I'm overacting and being too sensitive or something. I don't know. Please help me with this. I never planned on posting about any of this, but after yesterday, I just lost it. This has been irking me for a while. I have two uncles that live on the other side of my country, and they mostly communicate with my mother via the phone because they are all old. Uncle 1, we'll call him Roger, is unwell and a few years ago had to move to an assisted living home. His daughter, we'll call her Barbara, lives nearby, and so does his younger brother, Uncle 2, who we will call Kyle. Roger has had issues with drugs his whole life and wasn't the best parent to Barbara, so she understandably hasn't always wanted to be involved with his issues. As such, he gave Kyle his power of attorney, and Kyle has been looking after him to the best of his abilities, while also struggling with his own family issues. When Roger moved to the home, he sold his house to Kyle for a steal because it was in horrible shape. His druggy friends had been abusing it for years and it needed major work. Kyle spent a lot of money fixing it up and then was lucky enough to sell it while real estate prices were high in their area, so he made a bit of a profit. Barbara got word that a profit was made and wanted it. She fought Kyle for power of attorney over her dad and then sued him for the profit made on the house, claiming the money would go to Roger if she won. A judge agreed with her that Kyle should have given the profit to Roger, so she won several $100,000 from Kyle. The renovations he did on the house were not taken into consideration, so Kyle is actually out money. He didn't just have to pay the profit. He had to pay the difference between the two selling prices. Barbara, of course, didn't give the money to Roger but used it for herself. Luxury vacations, etc., the whole family knew about. Kyle had planned on using the profit to pay for better care for Roger, But she's left Roger in a crappy home because she didn't want to waste the money. Here we are 6 months later, and she's having issues with Roger, and she still thinks she can make Kyle and my mother help her. No, lady. You wanted the money, and it comes with the responsibility of taking care of your dad alone now. The nerve of her expecting them all to still shoulder the burden she insisted she had after suing our uncle shocks me. Unfortunately, Kyle is a lovely person who will let her walk all over him and doesn't want his brother to suffer, so she will get away with this. It infuriates me. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.